Hey everybody, just going to give you this video real quick before everything starts. There may be a spot where I go on a little rant, get on my soapbox. Apologize ahead of time, kind of. Sorry, not sorry kind of situation. A little bit passionate about deer hunting and the way people treat others sometimes, and the way, I've even done it a few times, and I apologize. Besides with my dad or my uncle or my nephew, where we're razzing each other about shooting Bambi or the little one. Really, honestly, just if anybody's out in the woods hunting, trying to fill a tag that they paid for, whatever one they decide to shoot, it's fine with me. That's it. I've got some small ones over here, this one, this one, this one. I kind of go through a story of a few of them that I shot. There's a lot more of them downstairs that I haven't, that I didn't show. Some of the bigger ones that I guess were worthy of shoulder mounts and things like that. But this one over here, I didn't shoot. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. I'm supposed to say that beforehand. Whoops. So, you'll get the stories, and hopefully it's enjoyable. I hope I'm not really calling anybody out. I'm not trying to deer shame anybody or give anybody a bad taste in their mouth or a bad name. Just, I guess, kind of from my heart and my 2 cents. Hopefully you take it with a grain of salt. You can agree, you can disagree. Throw it down in the comments. So now on to your regular scheduled program. Enjoy. And thanks for watching. It's Tuesday. Hopefully everybody's having a great day. And I'm back up at the duck sanctuary. It's been a common location for me. There's some people out there fishing again. Not sure if they're catching anything. Maybe some golden shiners. That's what we seem to get here till later in the year, I guess. So I want to show you another poster on this bulletin board here that the state has put up and ask a few questions pertaining to it. Hopefully some people can get some comments going down below and see what the thoughts are. Well, let's take a look at this sign. Hunters, want older bucks in New York State? If you want more older bucks, encourage your neighbors and hunting partners to join you in taking fewer young bucks. It's your choice. You can increase the availability of older bucks by choosing to pass up shots at young bucks. You can boost deer condition and body and antler size by taking a doe if permits are available in your area, creating young forests to enhance natural forage and cover for deer. Let young bucks go and watch them grow. And this is a picture of a 1.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. Oh, it's a nice buck. So this has been a discussion for a while. Some states have antler restrictions, and Pennsylvania went to antler restrictions a few years ago. And I believe it's a minimum of 3 points on one side. So you could shoot as small as a 4-point if it's a spike on one and 3 points on the other side, but it's given the idea of at least a 6-point is what they're hoping for. And they're thinking that maybe, like this picture is showing, a 2.5-year-old. Now, I've seen many 1.5-year-olds that possibly, some of the 8 points that I've shot have been a pretty young buck. But most of them probably are about a 2.5-year-old, but maybe not. Some of these deer, they grow a pretty nice rack the first year and would show that they would be an even bigger racked buck at 2.5. The tricky part of this says here, taking a doe if permits are available in your area. Well, in my area, in 9P, it took me 4 years to get a doe tag. Last year was the first time in 4 years, or first time in 5 years, I had 4 preference points to get a doe tag. Now, 6 or 8 years ago, I was given, I think, 4 or 5 doe tags for my area, which sounds to me like mismanagement. You also have people coming in from out of the area that have doe tags, and the people that actually live in the area can't get them. So that's a frustrating situation. Now, if I was hunting because I needed food in my freezer and I had a tag, I could eat tag soup, or I could eat that right there. Pretty sure that's what I'm shooting if I'm making sure that my family is going to be fed. Now, maybe if the DEC would make your regular buck season tag, it's antlered only tag, if they would turn that into an either sex tag, then people would pass this up for that right there. A lot of 2, 3, 4-year-old doe are going to be bigger than a 1.5-year-old buck, and you're going to get more meat off of it. But they haven't given that opportunity. They're pretty much forcing people to shoot that spike right there because they don't have a tag to get a doe to put meat in the freezer. You know, it's great to consider this. A lot of people are looking for this big, beautiful buck here. You know, I've gotten a couple of bucks that were 3.5, 4.5-year-old bucks, and you definitely see a size difference. And personally, I have a rule for myself that's 8 points or more and at least as wide as its ears. And that's caused me in times to not shoot bucks when they're right in front of me, thinking that I want to hold off for that older, more mature deer. You get more meat on that animal, and it's nice to see a nice big buck in the back of your vehicle, and to know that, you know, he passed his genes on while he bred a few does, and knowing that that's the animals get that size because you pass them up is nice. But like I said, you can't always pass this guy up if you want to feed your family. And you know what? People pay for that hunting license. They paid good money to be able to go out into the woods. They put money towards the animal habitat. They put money into the economy by buying ammunition and guns and all that. And to tell them that they can't shoot that 1.5-year-old, I think that's wrong. I don't appreciate Pennsylvania doing that, because there's some hunters that want to brag about the big buck that they shot, or maybe to be able to get people to come in from other states to do get an out-of-state license, a non-resident license, because they know that there's a lot of bigger bucks in the area. I mean, that's fine if you're wanting to make some money, but to force people to not feed their family after they paid money for a license, I don't agree with it. It's been a few hours since I was up at the duck sanctuary and did the little video on the sign about letting the little bucks go and letting them grow. And I've got a couple ideas that I wanted to talk about, but I brought some specimens up here of some of the bucks that I've killed in the past. I've gotten some smaller ones, I've gotten some bigger ones, I've got some bigger ones yet on the wall, shoulder mounts. I didn't want to drag them up here. They might end up on the wall here at some point, but I don't want to make the walls downstairs bare. But one of the things I was reading about was actually from a website called wideopenspaces.com, and it's the top 10 worst hunting states in America. And there was, you know, Maine, Vermont, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, a lot of the northeastern states were right up there on the list. But would you guess what the number one worst state to hunt whitetail is? You guessed it, New York State. Now, their criteria is low harvest numbers, large numbers of yearling bucks, low numbers of mature bucks, heavy hunter density, and consistent adverse weather conditions. And this is what they said about New York. One of the largest states in the Northeast, New York easily slides in at number 1 on our list. The Empire State ranks 3rd in hunter density nationwide, 15.1 hunters per square mile. And while harvest numbers are competitive nationally, 54% of all bucks harvested were yearling deer. In fact, only 18% of all bucks harvested in New York were 3.5 years old and older. This, combined with the highest average snowfall in the nation, means New York has a large number of hunters enduring miserable conditions and a hostile political climate. In New York, you pay extra for your bow hunting privilege, and you pay extra for a lot of your tags to hunt a deer herd that is imbalanced at best. It's not a really great thing to hear about in New York State. And the people that are out there hunting, maybe it makes you feel good about, hey, hunting the #1 worst state in the country, and if you're still getting deer, maybe that shows that you have some skill, or you're just really lucky. The next article that I used, I went onto Google and searched let young bucks go and watch them grow, and a DEC website from New York popped up, and that's what I have here is about a 5-page article. And most of it is saying that, you know, most people in New York want to bring home a 2.5-year-old or older buck. That's what they go to the woods for, and trying to tell you how to change your hunting habits to let the small ones go and wait for a big one. Like I said before, some man that's trying, or lady that's trying to fill a freezer and to support the family and feed the family, maybe they can only get out for a weekend because they work hard and it's tough to get a day off, and the first buck that they see, they're going to attempt to harvest it. And for me, if that's what you're doing, then I think you should be able to do that. But as I said before, if New York would change their big game regular season tag from a buck tag to a either sex tag, people could pass that buck up and shoot the biggest doe they see. And I think that would help with the situation, especially in my area. You know, it said pass up the bucks and shoot a doe with a doe tag, but my area, you can't get a doe tag very easily. I mean, if you're shooting one doe every 5 years, you're not going to have very much meat in your freezer between deer harvests. So this does show a good point, though, and this is what I tell other people, because when I tell people that I have my own antler restrictions, and this buck here would probably be one that would show about what that is. It's not a giant buck. It's 8 points or bigger, and it was wider than his ears. I actually shot that during archery this past year, and it was for a specific reason. The temperature was right, and I didn't know how much time I was going to be hunting this year, and it gave me an opportunity, and I can be opportunistic sometimes. But it says 1.5-year-old bucks are usually around 110 pounds. They're 15 to 25% of their potential antler size. 2.5-year-old is 140 pounds, so you gain 30 pounds, probably not all meat. Maybe you gain 10 or 15 pounds of meat. I don't know. And it's 25 to 50% of its potential antler size. And a 3.5-year-old is 180 pounds, so you gain 70 pounds in that 2 years that you let that deer grow up. And it's 50 to 75% of its potential antler size. Those are all pretty good numbers. And you definitely would like to shoot the big buck, but not always do you have that opportunity. You've got to put more time in, more effort in, and pass up a bunch of bucks, and maybe for a couple of years go without until you get a chance. Some people, it's worth it. They're looking for the trophy antlers. Some people, they say they don't care about the antlers. You know, you hear a lot of people say, you can't eat the antlers, you can't eat the antlers. I get that, and it's true, but sometimes that could be a cop-out too. Like, well, I don't have time, or I don't have the patience, or I don't care about the antlers, and those all could be true. But I guarantee you, if the first buck that walked out was a giant 10-point, you'd be telling people about the nice buck you shot. And I'm guilty of that myself. You know, I would love to shoot bucks like this one every year, and I don't always get bucks like that. Actually, this one, I'll tell you the story about it in a little bit. But it would be nice to be able to shoot a buck like that all the time, but if you can't and you need the meat, then the alternative is, you know, something like this one over here. And then, you know, to some people, that's a really respectable deer. Could be the biggest one they ever shot. You know, we have this thing now, we like to shame everybody, and it's not new. We've been doing it for years. I mean, you shoot a small one and somebody's like, oh, that's a Bambi, that's a baby, you should have let it go. And that happens, you know, when it's your buddies, fine. You guys want to razz each other and everything, but now that we got social media and Facebook going and other things, somebody puts a picture up and other people are congratulating them, and then somebody that comes in and, you know, tells them, should have let it go, baby killer, stuff like that. I mean, it's unnecessary. It's more for somebody's ego trip or thinking that they're better than someone or talking down to somebody. We should really, as hunters, stick together and be proud for other people that actually getting out to the woods. A lot of people aren't going out to the woods anymore, you know, especially with this the pandemic going on right now. A lot of posts up on Facebook, you know, saying that all the people that used to say, hey, you get your meat in the grocery store, they're going to wish that they knew how to hunt and go get meat on their own. I don't think it's going to get that bad, but a couple of times at the grocery store, the meat counters were empty and people were freaking out. And I wasn't freaking out. I knew how to go get it, and I had a freezer full. We should work with each other, teach each other, and if people get good at it and start to hunt and have learning the craft and the trade, then they can feel confident in passing up a young buck because they know that they'll see a bigger one later. A lot of it's just the confidence. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to harvest many bucks and does. I've been very thankful for each one that I've been able to harvest. And sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's skill, a little of both, or just a great blessing from God to let them walk in front of me when they do. And I'm always thankful. But I've been hunting since I was 16, and this year would have been my 26th year hunting whitetails in New York State. I was in the Army for 7 years, and I would come home on leave and go hunting for a few days during Thanksgiving time, and then go back to either North Carolina or Pennsylvania. So there were a few years that I didn't have a lot of time to put in. Then there was other years where I was working full-time and I had kids at home. When my wife was working first shift, I was working second or third shift, and that made it difficult to get to the woods. So on a Saturday or a Sunday or a certain day of the week was the only time I could get out. And you made do with what you could. I think my first year deer hunting was I didn't get a deer that year. And then about 10 or 12 years ago was the only other year that I didn't get a deer. And that year I hunted harder than I think I ever have. It put a lot of pressure on me. I passed up probably 10 different bucks looking for the big one because I had taken vacation right during the best time of hunting. I was on layoff for a couple weeks, and I was sun up to sundown and miles and miles and miles, and passing up bucks left and right looking for the big one. And at the end, I was exhausted and beat down, worn out, and deerless. So, but my first buck, we'll go past that. Whew, the memories, it was terrible. My first buck is actually downstairs on the wall, 7-point that I got by Dad's. And if you guys liked that virtual hunt, or whatever the other word was that I called it, let me know, because I might do one on a few of my bucks that I've shot, just because it's nice to walk through the woods and let the memories come back. But this here was my second buck. That is quite the 4-point. I think it's 14 or 15, I don't have a tape measure. Inside spread. Now, a lot of people say should have passed that one up. Well, I probably would have if I knew it was a 4-point. I was walking with a friend, and this buck was down in this depression, and there was a tree, like right here, a bigger tree, you know, it was like a 10-inch tree, and I could just see the forks on this side and this side sticking past it. Well, I thought for sure it was an 8-point. I shot him, and it dropped not too far away. And got over there, and it was just 4-point. I don't know how old he was. It was a pretty good sized deer. And like I said, it was my second buck. And at that time of my hunting stage, it was kind of like shoot anything you see almost. You know, you wanted to fill every tag, and you wanted to brag about what you got and talk about how awesome of a hunter you were. Like I said, it was only my second deer ever, so I wasn't that awesome. I don't think I'm awesome yet. This one up here on the top, that was a archery buck, and I shot that. I believe I was on my buddy's property. I can't remember that one right now. I've got a few here. And then this one I shot on some private land that I have permission to hunt. Now that one on the top, compared to some of them with what their teeth look like and everything, I'm pretty sure that was a 2.5-year-old buck. And it was a good sized body. But he didn't really make the requirements. The reason I shot that buck is because, just like another one on this table, I butcher my own deer. And I need to know what the weather's going to be for the next 3 or 4 days, because I like them to hang for 3 or 4 days. And that one was right as a cold front was coming in, and it was supposed to be cold for 3 days. And so I shot that buck because he came in when he did, and that was the first deer of the season, and I wanted to get a canner filled, or 2 canners filled, and get restocked in the pantry. So I didn't let that one walk. I let a couple other ones walk earlier in the season, and one actually that was a little bit bigger than that walk because it was warm out, and I figured I'd have time. This one I shot in the second week of gun season. There was snow on and here and there, and it was a cool hunt. This buck was actually in between. I can't tell for sure. I would say that deer was a 3.5-year-old. It was a huge body on that one. I mean, my buddy and I drug that one out, and it was big. But, you know, he didn't have any brow tines. I couldn't see it. He was 110 yards away in the woods coming down this bank, and I rattled and grunted him down through there. And then, because I started in a different area and I was crashing up through the woods and grunting and rattling, I came up and around, and he was coming down looking for me. And I grunted once, and he stopped, shot, he ran down, and like 30 yards was piled up. But, you know, this one, people might have let go again because of no brow tines. Well, the next year, probably wasn't going to have much of brow tines again. You know, it just, I don't know if he had the genetics. Let's see, this one. Looks like a jackalope, right? I was up on a buddy's, and it was, there was 2 weeks left of bow season. They had seen this one a couple times, almost getting hit by cars, and probably would have gotten hit. There's a lot of deer get hit that area. But he came through just the right time. Again, it was a cold snap, and to be honest with you, one of the main reasons I shot this buck is because I knew that weekend, I shot him on like a Thursday or Friday night, and that weekend was when Crossbow opened up, and I was going to be taking Joy out to hunt, and I wanted to really focus on hunting with her and being her guide and trying to get her first deer. So I shot him, and when I got down there, I thought, oh man, he's a lot smaller than I thought he was, but I made an excellent shot through the heart. And sometimes that's what it's about. It's about the hunt itself, and not always the quality, the size of the deer. This deer was a good deer, and he actually, you know, I think he was 1.5 years old, because his teeth in the front here aren't grown all the way in yet. You can see the difference between that one and this one. You see the front molars aren't even out, and these ones are. So I would say this one was 1.5 years. I mean, that had really good genetics, and if I would have passed him up, he would have been a beautiful buck the next year. I didn't. Sometimes you regret that, but I had no problem putting him in the canner. He was the first buck of the season as well, and it was a good time for it. Let's see here. This buck I shot with my bow up on my aunt's property in a ground blind that I had built, and you know, he's just as wide as his ears, fits the description. This one up here, I don't know if you can see it, it's a really cool buck, but really small frame. That deer, when I got up to him, it was later in the season, and I was following a whole bunch of tracks up along through some oaks, and I had the wind just right, and I got up to a spot, and these deer started filing out of this point, circling down around me. I had the wind coming up this way, and it was doe, 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 and then all of a sudden I saw antlers, but I just saw, just like with him, I just saw the front sticking out, and he was in between trees, and I had an opening, and I took it. When I got up to him, I think it was probably one of the smallest deer, well, besides I've shot button bucks and things, but he was about the size of a button buck. It's the weirdest thing, and he has all his teeth in. I really think, I mean, I wish I had a jawbone of him. I think he was a 2.5 or 3.5 year old buck, but I think he had like a growth issue. His nose was all bent, and his head was kind of funny. And I shot a doe that year, and he was like half the size of that doe. It was really weird. I don't know if he was going to get any bigger. I don't know if he had like a dwarfism situation or something, but that's that buck. He's got a couple of sticker points, and well, just this one up here, and then he's got another one tried to grow there. I don't know what he would have been, if he would have gotten any different. I don't know. This one was this year's archery buck, and it was a really cool story, and I'm probably going to do one of the hunt simulations. That's what it was called, the hunt simulation, with him, because I've got some pictures of how I built my ground blind, and how I had gone up through the woods, and the different sign that I had seen, and then a couple other pictures of the hunt that I have. Good sized buck, body wise, and you know, it's not a huge rack, and it meets my requirements of if I'm going to pass him or not. I almost passed him. I didn't actually draw at first. I was hemming and hawing. I just was going to watch. I was up there actually scouting, but I went for it, and that buck, if you looked at this one and didn't have the teeth in the front, this one does. I'm saying probably 2.5. And it was a good sized body, and it was a good deer to take. So you're probably all wondering about this buck. Now this is what we're looking for, right? Look at the mass on this guy. I mean, it's like 1.5 inches almost right there. I mean, it's nice and beefy. It's got some mass down here. It's perfectly symmetrical, you know? I mean, just about perfect. This G4 over here and here, you know, this one's a little bit shorter. This side is a little more dominant. But other than that, I mean, it's beautiful. Not real wide, but it's a nice buck. Now this buck, man, I snuck up on him. I saw his antlers. It was raining. It was like the 3rd day of deer season. And I was up on my aunt's. I was making my way up to the top. And I saw just some gleaming off of the antler. And I thought, holy moly, is that a buck? And I drew up on him because I saw his body. Drew up on him. And I looked. And I'm like, man, I can sneak a little closer. His head's behind a tree. I sneak. And I look over there. And his head's like this on the ground. His eyes are wide open. And he's dead. What a shame. Somebody saw this buck and couldn't help but pull the trigger. Something that he was looking for probably a long time. He was looking for one of these big, beautiful New York State bucks, right? Well, that shot was in his hindquarters, like just into the front of the hindquarter and into his guts. And that deer suffered for who knows how long and came down to my aunt's and died. And coyotes chewed his hindquarters off, and I cut the head off and came down and I boiled it, and then my dogs got a hold of the nose. Man, I was mad about that. But this was years ago, probably 12, 14 years ago maybe. And you know, you've got the fact that you're looking for these big beautiful bucks. But you know, personally, I'd rather make a clean kill on this buck, that buck, that buck, any of these small ones, and know that my shot was true, that my gun was sighted in when I went out. I have the confidence. I've been practicing with my gun or my bow, and that when I go out there, I make a clean, ethical shot, and that I can harvest and recover the deer that I shot. You know, some people are just flinging lead and they don't care. They see a giant crossing a field and they're just unloading on that thing and probably missing it, but they probably have no idea where it even was to check to see if they've got hair or blood after their shot. And that's the thing that frustrates me. You know, when people are talking about growing the deer so they have bigger antlers so you can get a bigger racked buck. I don't think that everybody's going to do that, but people just fling lead. And, you know, I have a person that I've hunted with before, and they had filled their tag and their son's tag and their wife's tag and other people's tags, and then they saw a big buck in an area that I hunt, and said the only thing they had was a rear end shot, so they took it and then they never found it. That's frustrating. And that person was somebody that would probably bust your chops for shooting a buck that looks like this instead of shooting this one or some of the other ones that I've shot. The point is we have these animals that we're in charge of, you know, taking care of them. And you go out to the woods, and like I said before, it's all about ethics. You have a responsibility. This is a living animal that you're going after. You want it to be difficult, so you're looking for the bigger one or whatever it is, or you want to have more pride or have more bragging rights. You just go out there and you put 5 or 6 holes in it, and you know, to me, that's more shameful than shooting a spike but being super accurate. We owe it to them to not put them through a bunch of suffering. I can't tell you how many deer I've found on the state land dead from somebody that was careless, or somebody that shot it and didn't track it, or somebody that I watched where they tracked up to it and looked at the deer and then walked away. I saw where the guy shot from. I was in a different area. He walked over there. I thought, I'm pretty sure that deer was there. And then I see him walk away. Then I come down later that day and look, and his tracks went right from his spot, saw the deer. It wasn't the size that he thought it was, and he went the other way and left. That's shameful. Not shooting a spike to put meat in your freezer. Anyways, well, that was quite the soapbox. I guess I'm a little bit passionate about my deer hunting. We'll see how much of that makes it in. Hey everyone. I just want to thank you for sitting through my little rant there. I know it was long. When I was talking, I didn't know it was that long. I felt it was getting long-winded, and I looked. I think it was 18 minutes and something. Thanks for sitting through that. You know, to each their own. And I just want to see people out hunting and enjoying themselves, being safe and responsible. Hopefully, everybody that wants to get out this year will be able to. Hopefully, you'll get out to sight your preferred hunting instrument, whether it's a gun or a bow or a crossbow or a rifle, whatever you're going to use. Just make sure it's sighted in. Take that extra time. Get comfortable with it. And it's worth the little bit extra money and the extra time to feel confident in your shot. I hope that everybody's doing well. You know, I've seen some people asking if it's safe to go out and walk around, if that's morally or, you know, responsible. I say if you're outside getting fresh air and away from a crowd and enjoying yourself is probably more responsible than just sitting in your house. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just know that people are feeling cooped up. They're getting edgy. They're getting worried. They're getting anxious. And the more that you let your mind race in a cooped in environment, the worse it'll be. Get out and get some exercise. Enjoy the scenery. Get fresh air. You know, it's all good for us. Thanks for letting me show you some of my respectable or not so respectable, depending on the way you look at it, bucks. I think most people say any buck with a bow is something to be proud of. I guess I am. I just really enjoy to be out there. Sometimes shooting one early means you don't get so much time in the woods, but in that time of season, I've got firewood to get in. I've got stuff to do with the bees. I've got to, you know, get ready for next season or guiding my amazing and understanding wife to hopefully her first buck, and other people that I help out too. So sometimes you take one for the team, and sometimes you get to have a nice buck walk in front of you. But it's not always about the kill. A lot of it's about the preparation and about the experience and about being in God's creation and then being thankful. You know, that deer, you know, I'm not going to get like Uncle Ted Nugent on you and Spirit of the Wild and Long Live the Beast and stuff like that. But, you know, that deer did give up its life for you. So just be respectful and thankful. And I guess that's it. I appreciate all you guys watching the videos and girls. And I love every one of you. I pray that you notice God's blessings in your life. God bless you. Have a great night. I have no problem with passing up. Oh, sorry, got a squirrel situation. There's a bald eagle flying right overhead over here. Pretty cool. That's one reason you can't catch very many fish in this pond, though. That eagle, he's been eating the fish up pretty good. Try to think of where I was. You know, it's well, thankfully, over the many years of hunting, I started at 16, and I'm, 43 now, and gotta remember how old I am. How old am I? I'm gonna be 43. Okay, slow down. Well, over the years of hunting, I've been blessed enough to be able to... Does anybody hear that dog next door? That's the neighbor's dog, Wolfie. And he's fired up about something. I think it might be because I turned this light on, but I'm not sure. And he's vocal. It's okay. He's just a dog. Well, hey everybody. I guess I can't seem to keep a video under 30 minutes. Joy knocked out a 9-minute one the other day. That was pretty amazing. Anyway, this is a pre-video warning. I go on a little bit of a rant. I know. You can't believe that I would do something like that. I don't know if I've ever been on a rant like that before. You'll see. Hopefully you'll watch it. gonna just put it all in there. I was gonna cut parts out. I think I'm just gonna go with all of it. But I'm sitting in front of these deer over here. There's some of the deer I've harvested. Some small ones, some medium ones. Actually, this one over here. Oh, let me see if I get my hand in the picture. That really nice buck. Didn't harvest that. Oh, don't pay attention to that. I just let out some of the information. Anyway, but I did go on a little bit of a rant about that buck. And so hopefully you enjoy it. And don't hold a grudge. I love all you guys. And no matter if you're shooting big bucks or little bucks or no bucks, or you haven't been to the woods or you want to go to the woods, you're all okay in my book. As long as you don't bash everybody else because they are in the woods or, you know, whatever. So it might get a little bit long, but I'm forewarning you. Love you. Enjoy it. Bye.